Make sure that this is going. And boom, I think we are now live on our various social channels. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're excited for this topic and this session. I'm joined by my colleague Kasim, and we're really excited to talk about um, AI and its impact on the um, jobs market and the opportunity that it presents for independent contractors and our client base. Um, so first, I wanted to maybe just have a discussion on the state of the market right now when it comes to IT consulting. And I would say, without a doubt, there are less job opportunities in traditional IT consulting and project management right now, and the roles and opportunities are fewer and more far between than they have been in a long time, and don't see that changing, unfortunately, in the very near future. As you know, we've got some interesting trends that showing us that more than 70% of enterprises are using AI in their development suite. And we know that developers can be significantly more efficient, and right now, with the combination of the technology enabling firms to do more with less people and the economy being in, I'm going to say, turmoil, we're seeing firms pull back from the hiring or freezing on the hiring at the very least, if not letting people go,
Yeah.
at least in the traditional ways that we would find opportunities in the past. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think that there are still tremendous amounts of opportunity for IT consultants, but I would say the opportunities are rising more in the small business market rather than in the enterprise market. Um, I'm seeing this firsthand that there are many small businesses, particularly in the accounting and bookkeeping world, that feel an obligation to be implementing AI tools and technology, but are struggling to figure it out and understand it, are overwhelmed with their existing roles and don't have the time to work on this, but really feel like they need to. And so we're seeing a really big rise in the role of the AI consultant to help firms implement these pieces of technology. And I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity for any of you who are out there struggling to find your next contract with an enterprise client to switch your mindset from, an IT large firm-based consultant to an AI IT-based consultant for small businesses. And I think that we know that these firms, um, if you want to stay in the large firm model, you got to become familiar with the IT development tools. And there's a number of great
Yeah.
tools for development, maybe even Kasim, you want to, go through some of the key ones that we're seeing being used at the enterprise level, like things like, Claude Code and GitHub and Cursor. Because I mean, Cursor is a big one. It was used by NVIDIA,
Yeah.
not exactly a small client. So I mean, we know that if you want to remain in the IT space at large enterprises, you need to become familiar with these AI-based tools because we've got over 70% of the firms using them now, and I don't see that number shrinking. I only see it growing. What are your thoughts on that, Kasim?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. One point that I would really like to drive home, and I bring this up in a lot of the past webinars that we've done as well, is that AI is not replacing consultants. AI is not replacing IT consultants or independent consultants or humans, so to speak. A, the humans and the IT consultants who are using AI will be replacing those who are not using AI, because they'll have that competitive market advantage to do the work more efficiently, more accurately, and at the end of the day, just drive more value compared to their competition who aren't leveraging these tools, right? And it's interesting you mentioned Claude and Cursor because I was talking to a friend in Dubai and they were trying to build a language learning app and they literally built the entire LMS portal, the website and everything, the ticketing system using Claude. And it kind of blew my mind because they had no technology background. And I was like, but their one pain point was, okay, now that I've done it, how do I integrate it? How do I maintain it going forward, right? And that's where the value kicks in for IT consultants specifically is these small businesses who don't have a technology background, they can probably get that foundation up and running, but they need people to, they need someone to come in and maintain that system, right? So that's a very important one. Another tool which I think, dare I give the secret away, I should say, is called Stitch. So it's a vibe coding tool. For those of you who aren't really familiar with the concept of vibe coding, it's literally in simplest terms, it's using natural language prompts to build to code essentially. This tool Stitch, what it does is that it designs UI UX systems for you. So it literally designs an entire UI interface, like a user interface for your application or your website, just using natural language prompts. And to think about it, literally 3, 4 years ago, this was an actual thing which was very popular on freelancing websites like Upwork and Fiverr, where people were contracting their services to set up a UI, to set up a mock UI for your application, then you could tweak it. Now, people who have zero technology and coding experience can design their own user interfaces, tweak them, and generate an HTML code out of it and then do whatever they want, right? So I think that with the trends showing what they are showing, which we've discussed, it's really important for IT consultants to use their innate sort of mindset to adopt these new technologies and leverage them, because if you don't, then your competition will, and they're gonna blitz the market for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, again, I'm coming from the accountant's mindset because of what I'm seeing, but I have a friend, Mark Wickersham, who just did a post the other day about how he was able to create a dashboard for an accounting firm using vibe coding in less than an hour, and it completely
Wow.
eliminated a enterprise tool that they had been using. And one of the things that's also happened in the accounting world that I really saw as an indicator of a massive shift that is about to come was the closure of a software called BotKeeper, which was the first AI-based application that did all the accounting and bookkeeping for you. The program went under despite having $100 million of venture-backed financing. It was largely because they had larger clients, and through some changes within those larger clients, they ended up losing them, likely because those firms went with internally built tools. And now with the ability to do vibe coding, this means small businesses who have historically relied on I'm not even calling them enterprise tools, but a whole bunch of apps strung together that never did exactly what they wanted, but they kind of did mostly what they wanted. And it was
Yeah.
a quick tool that they could just buy off the shelf. Now to firms being like, now I can build exactly what I want. I don't have to pay the monthly maintenance fee with this app. And there's, app fatigue and learning all these new apps, and app fatigue and the cost of all these new apps that people have to use. So we're seeing more and more of these businesses building their own dashboards, building their own voice agents, building their own applications that they're using internally. And where I see this as being a tremendous opportunity for the IT consultants is because there is going to be a shift as smaller companies become more developers, not just because they can now, but because it's going to help them to eliminate a lot of their technology costs, which, I can tell you with the apps we use and we still use on a daily basis, those go up, you know, exponentially from far more than inflation every single year. And you
Yeah.
get into these golden handcuffs where you're using this tool and you feel locked in. They raise their price, you have no choice because you've got to use those tools. And now people are having more and more alternatives. They're like, well, if you raise your rates 30%, maybe it's better for me to go off and build my own app in Claude Code or Cursor, or to
Yeah.
bring in a consultant who historically, if I wanted to bring in a development team to build out an application, it would be months before I would have a usable piece of software.
Yeah.
But now we can develop things in days, if not, weeks, if not days, right? I'm thinking of another one of our clients that has worked on. So he came to me and he was struggling to find a contract, and I talked to him about, hey, what if you went out and just started doing this AI based consulting? Pick a couple of tools that you like, get familiar with them, build a solution that you can then go out and market and that you can provide support for. And it becomes easier for them to manage. And he actually came back to me a week later and he'd already built out a tool. And he was just blown away with how quickly he could develop now, thanks to artificial intelligence. Now, in that situation, he ended up finding a new contract and he's going to continue on with this AI as almost a side hustle because he was so happy with how far he was able to get and move forward. And this is like, I know, we have developers, in our client base, but we have project managers, we have people who do other aspects of IT. And I think there's opportunity for those of you as well who are not as maybe technology focused or who weren't like actual software developers and programmers, because you still have that mindset, that technological mindset of understanding
Yeah.
the problem, dissecting the workflow, running through how that will actually the logic behind those workflows. And
Yeah.
that's still an imperative part of low code, no code is you have to understand the problem and you have to understand the logic and the workflow so that you can build effective tools. And I really see there as being a tremendous opportunity of sort of picking a niche, an area that you want to focus in on, whether that's through passion or interest or whatever drives your direction, but picking an industry or niche and then going out and building tools that can be reusable that you can offer to these small businesses, and likely they will need some unique customization for that individual client because that's the beauty of the era we're in right now is now I no longer need to settle for a software product that does 80% of what I want. I can build a
Yeah.
tool that does 100% of what I want. And where I see the opportunity is if you've got a core problem that exists amongst a certain niche, you can build a core functional solution and then come in and tweak that and modify it. And now you can create these bespoke custom experiences for your customers very cost effectively and very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that delivers a lot of value, uh, more so for smaller businesses than it does for the enterprises. And the enterprises, they'll continue to do development, and but the number of developers that they hire, the number of project managers that they hire is, you'll be lucky if it stays stable. Lucky if it stays stable. I don't
Yeah.
see a big fundamental shift, but I still see tremendous, tremendous opportunity, at least in the short, 3 to 5 year range of going out there and getting familiar with these tools, creating solutions, understanding them. And the only downside to this is one of the skill sets you'll need to pick up is marketing and sales,
Yeah.
because
Very important.
you I
Yeah.
think the technology area our clients will not struggle with, and probably well definitively know more about this stuff than me. I've got other clients that have been doing some really interesting stuff with Hugging Face. There's specific development tools that you guys would be more familiar with than I would at the enterprise level. But the area that you'll struggle with is likely the sales and marketing. But again, here's where LLMs can really, and AI can come to the rescue. The way that you can leverage LLMs to identify your target markets, to create marketing material, whether you're talking about using just the LLMs or you're talking about using even Canva and all the AI tools that are available in Canva, so that now you don't have to be a graphic designer. You don't need to have a graphic designer on staff anymore. And literally a one-man shop now is the equivalent of a 20 or 30-man shop back in the
Yeah,
day. And with a few other developers collaborating and working together, you can be the equivalent of an enterprise level team. And it's like I say, I think it's a tremendous amount of opportunity for the IT contractors, um, particularly those who
absolutely.
might be struggling to find their next contract right now.
Yeah, couldn't agree
Um,
more. And the marketing side, I would just quickly add one more thing is that for IT consultants specifically, uh, you can literally, use LLMs to design your marketing strategies from start to finish. Like literally to have a discussion with it to come up with your target market, what their potential pain points can be, what's the most effective channel to reach them. Maybe it's email, or maybe it's not email, maybe it's just picking up the phone. And so literally have that conversation. And in business school, I was an engineering major, but I used to, I used to love sort of taking some additional business subjects. And one of the things that we learned in principles of marketing was to literally lay out your 4 Ps to, create a marketing canvas of doing segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and all those analyses, which you now don't necessarily need to do on your own from scratch. You can literally use these AI tools to come up with that stuff. And to one of Andrew's earlier point, which I think is very, very important, is the standards of small business owners. They are now increasing day by day. They just want that custom solution which can exactly do what they want, right? And before, like a few years ago, before this AI revolution, people you just used to settle. They were like, okay, I'll take this off the shelf, or if the
it
developer
solves
can only
80% of
meet
my problems. I'll deal with the other
exactly,
20% manually, and they would have workarounds.
yeah,
You always have
exactly,
these workarounds. And now there's the
yeah,
opportunity to not need to have those workarounds. And I think, you know,
yeah,
that I truly believe that the era of AI is the era of entrepreneurship. It's going to enable
absolutely,
people
yeah,
who have wanted to go into an entrepreneurship and explore it to do it far more easily than they ever could before. And I also think it's
yeah,
going to create a not only the opportunity that because it's easier, but an obligation because finding traditional roles is going to get harder and harder as AI does more and more, or people who use AI does do more and more, right? We
yeah,
like you said, is it's not going to be AI that replaces you. It's going to be someone who uses AI that replaces you. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, if I can keep the job with 5 people instead of 20, that's what the
yeah,
organizations are going to do, particularly in financial markets that are constrained. And with everything that's going on
absolutely,
around the
yeah,
world, whether it's, cartels in Mexico or, whatever's going on in the US or
yeah,
Iran, the world is in a difficult position. And we know that when that happens, companies freeze. They don't do more
yeah,
hiring. And if anything, we're going to start to see more and more layoffs. And this is going to force people to entrepreneurship. And you can either go be an Uber driver or a Lyft driver, or you can go into your dream job. And now there's, vibe coding for building your own website. There's Canva, which has all the AI tools you could ever need to be a graphic designer without having any really good graphical design skills. There's Cursor to develop the code and the applications that you want to do. There's platforms like 11 Labs, which we love for voice agents, which we've been using for voice agents that can allow you to deploy a voice agent or a customized chatbot
yeah,
quickly and easily in ways that were never, ever available before. And I think that in this transition period, people are looking for coaching, helping, and support. Now, the good news is it's very easy to jump into that realm right now because it's so early into the market that
Yeah.
you'll become an expert so quickly and so easily. And if you look around, unfortunately, the the um, the internet is flooded with AI coaches. Half of them are terrible, half of them are good.
Yeah.
So really, what it's going to come down to is, like I said, that sales and marketing aspect,
Yeah.
and being able to not well, and focusing not on boiling the ocean, but on finding a niche, solving a specific problem. And then as you do that, and I think you can start small. You don't have to boil the ocean, as I say. Just think of one issue that you know that you can solve within a specific niche. You go and you build that, you market it, you go out to that firm, your first firm you work with, you get involved, you start learning more about, well, what other problems do you face? What other areas can I help you to automate or to leverage AI or to to learn these no code tools, and then that just adds to your base knowledge that then makes you even more valuable to the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth customers.
Yeah.
And I think that you'll start to see that word of mouth grow quite quickly. And I also believe that by going niche, it becomes much easier to market and sell because you can just go to a conference in or whatever it is, dentistry or film and television or whatever it is. And there's always one to many relationships if you can find your niche. The problem is when you're trying to go out there and be everything to everyone, it becomes difficult to sell and market.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you just literally answered one of the most common questions that we get during these webinars and just overall as well is where do I start? Okay, I have all these tools at my disposal, but what do I do? What's the starting point? And I think that the thing that you mentioned, I think, which is very important, is you shouldn't start off with a particular tool or something. You shouldn't start off by saying that, okay, I'm going to learn Zapier or Claude or Cursor or whatever. You should start off with a problem and work your way backwards towards a solution and see which tools can serve you the best in getting to that solution, right? You don't care about what tools you're using. I mean, for all you could care, you could be using something from Google in one place or in something on Microsoft on the other place. You're not loyal to the tool itself. What you're loyal to is figuring out a solution to the problem, right? So always start with the problem, and it could be something very small, and work your way backwards towards a solution, and then figure out which tools will get the job done for you in the most efficient way, right? So I think that is very important. Is whenever you sort of get into this, sort of rabbit hole of, okay, where do I start? It's too much. Like, what do I do? Just always think of that one statement as what problem do I want to solve? Because that's going to really help you focus and narrow down on the scope of what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And starting small, I think is the key, and letting it
Yeah,
grow organically out of it, you'll end up on the right path. Um, but like I
absolutely.
said, I wanted to step in here, just have a conversation because, as I said, we're seeing the impacts in the economy for IT consultants and the job opportunities, and that people are more and more struggling to find contracts. And we've had several clients come to us and share their concerns and ask us, what are you seeing, Andrew, from the state of the job market? And what I can say is I've seen a hiring freeze for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
One that we thought would go away. And it's not to say there's no opportunities out there. There are still lots of companies hiring, but those companies that are hiring are expecting you to know and understand AI as well, because they're expecting you to do that within these large organizations. And there's some enterprise specific tools that you probably want to become familiar with and learn about. Um, and there are those opportunities, but they're becoming fewer and more far between than they ever have. But yet entrepreneurship
yeah,
is exploding. And that's where there's a tremendous opportunity. So whether that's you want to go into some form of entrepreneurship that you never really felt ready to tackle, or it's just an industry that you have had a passion for. Maybe it's something to do with sports or hockey or some other passion. Now there's an opportunity for you to look at this as maybe I go into that as an entrepreneur serving, you know, doing that as a business, or maybe I help those businesses in that industry by solving a core problem that they face and helping that address that, whether that be in retail business and manufacturing businesses. There's an endless supply of opportunity, and it's just up to you to take the initiative and lean into it, because the majority of people are leaning back rather than leaning in, and that's where the opportunity
Yeah.
comes, right? So if you choose to lean in when everyone else is leaning back, you will succeed and you will do far better than the average. And I think that that's really what a lot of us are striving to do
Yeah.
is better than keep up with the Joneses and exceed them, right? As the saying goes.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know if we um, need to sort of belabor the
We're
point.
happy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we can ask people to send in questions as well. We'd love
Yeah,
to make it, interactive. So anything that you guys want to ask about, feel free to throw in, and we'll be happy to answer it, obviously, as best as we can. And then, yeah, one other thing which Andrew, I was thinking about, and this is something that we've discussed a lot in internally as well, is solving a problem is one thing, obviously. I mean, figuring out a solution to a problem that you're experiencing, that's one thing. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, or I should say missed opportunity, where small businesses are not extracting value from the mammoths of data that they've collected over the past however many years they've been operating for, right? So it could be nowadays everyone and their mother has an AI note taker. So you have tons of transcripts from every sales meeting, marketing meeting, expense reports meeting, whatever. So, and then you have tons of emails, and then you have tons of data, which I feel like small businesses, maybe a lot of them are just keeping for compliance purposes, but not a lot of them are actually seeing how we can leverage this data and extract insights from it to inform how we make our procedures better, how we can be more efficient. I think that's one of the areas where IT consultants especially can help and step in and implement systems where all of this data that these firms have been collecting over the past whatever decades that they've been operating for, like they can literally use this to, extract much significantly more value than they're extracting out of it right now. And this is not necessarily solving a problem, but this is like a missed opportunity where you didn't even know that you had all this data at your hands, and there's so much more you can do with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's unstructured data that they're not able
Yeah.
to do anything with historically. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity of leveraging that unstructured data to be more meaningful to the business owners. And there's a million and one ways to do that. And again, as you become more ingrained in the specific niches, you'll understand what kind of data these companies normally keep, where the insights and the value, how can we drive insights and value for these businesses by leveraging AI to analyze that unstructured data and create structured, suggestions and analysis going forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question here from someone. Which industries are currently most willing to pay for AI-enabled consulting services?
Um, which industries are willing to do it? I would say the ones that are most burdened by time. Um,
Yeah,
accounting
I agree. Yeah.
accounting and bookkeeping is a perfect example. Because I go and I speak to these accounting conferences, and the problem is, the what I hear over and over again is, I know it's important, I know I need to do it, I just don't have the time. And those are
Yeah.
the firms that are willing to do it because one, if they don't have the time, that means they're busy making money, which means they can
Yeah.
afford your services, first and foremost. Secondly, means that they don't have the time to figure it out. They know they need to, but they just don't know how. And that's where they're looking for someone to come in and provide some guidance and some coaching, and maybe even just the man hours to get the products off the ground. Because once you once you do that, once you're able to help them, automate systems and processes and technology, they'll have more time and more freedom. They may not
Yeah.
need you to continue to develop it, but they'll still want your coaching, your mentoring, your support of these tools. And that's why I see that's really big opportunities going out and going niche based and building solutions for a niche so that you can build a network of firms that you're
Yeah.
working with. Because you'll probably likely come in and it's not going to be a 12-month or 2-year contract. It's going to be a 1 month, a 2 month contract, and then you're
Right.
on to the next. And I think that the speed and the pace has been elevated by AI, and people are
Yeah.
going to need to do that. We got another question.
Absolutely.
Well, as a solo operators, where are the biggest low barrier opportunities to start offering AI powered services? Um, I think I'm biased, but I think voice agents. I know that this is
That's a big one. Yeah.
uh, somewhat controversial, um, but you know, there and again, you know, I'm a carpenter who sees everything as a nail, and I see things from sort of an accounting um, perspective. And what I'd see is in the accounting world, we're always busy, 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 struggling to pick up the phone when we should. And oftentimes with, staff, they're almost afraid to get on the phone because particularly in the accounting world where people are more technical and less social traditionally, what I found with my staff is, they struggle to pick up the phone. And then oftentimes if they pick up the phone, the communication is not great. Um, and what we've seen with what we've been able to do with voice agents and how quickly we were able to deploy them is phenomenal. I think that there's tremendous amount of opportunity in RPA as we
Yeah.
continue to develop with that, but that takes a lot more time to do. I think there's tremendous amount of opportunity with tools like Canva, and what's the tool that we use for the video clips? Uh, I always forget.
Opus.
Opus AI.
Yeah.
Like there are these amazing apps that give you back so much time and make it more approachable to take aspects of your business that you often struggled with or avoided and make them approachable and easy to do. So I'd say um, those are my mine, but I come from a biased perspective. Do you have anything to add to that, Kasim?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well. I think voice agents is something which is not very popular nowadays. It's like I said, a little bit even controversial to say the least. But I think where people have these huge contracts with uh, call center companies to manage their entire operations, I and might be a hot take. I'm sorry in advance, but I think that entire industry is going to be significantly disrupted, and every like technical customer call support is going to be majority of them at least are going to be handled by AI voice agents in the upcoming future. And the reason why I'm saying this is not because of some like anecdotal thing. It's like we've seen it in our own firm. We've implemented systems
Yeah.
with voice agents where we've seen it significantly, perform better than maybe someone who would actually pick up the phone would, and the best part
Yeah.
about it is that it's always gonna be on the phone, it's always gonna attend the call, it's not gonna go to voicemail, it's always gonna make the call when you want it to. So I think that is a very important one which people might not be looking at right now, but they should be because this technology is only getting better day by day, and yeah, it's gonna disrupt this industry a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Then we got a question coming from YouTube here
yeah,
as well. So Zach asks, how can consultants ensure data privacy and security when using AI tools, especially with client information? This is a
that's
very,
important.
very,
Yeah,
very important question. And I would say a big part of this is what tools are you using? So, for example,
yeah.
free version of ChatGPT, you put in client
No
information.
bueno.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no bueno, because it's very clear in the terms of service that will be used to train the AI. Google, uh, Gmail, all of your Gmail data is used to train that. So don't send any PID through email, which we've sent to clients for years. But if it's
Yeah.
going to a Gmail, it is going to an AI training bot, or an LLM. It's being used to train an LLM. Whereas the Microsoft suite, the Copilot suite, that we run for the AI that we use, that that is not being used for training data. And again, the key is looking at your terms of service with whatever tools that you are using. And you can use AI to analyze the EULAs.
Yeah.
And because I mean, how many times have people just sign in a EULA without even looking at it? I think it's probably
Everything.
most.
Yeah.
And I love throwing EULAs into ChatGPT and asking, is there anything in here I should like be worried about, or and looking at what the things are that it can point out for me. So understanding your end user licensing agreements is imperative. And then understanding that you might use tools like we'll use 11 Labs, which is not as secure as Microsoft. We will use ChatGPT, but you can use that without providing PII, or personal identifiable information. And there are
Yeah.
ways to do that and still have it seem, um, you know, personable, and make sure that, and still providing it information, but depersonalized information. And you'd be amazed at how well it can still maintain a conversation with depersonalized information. Um,
Yeah.
and so this is an important thing to be concerned about, but it is not an unworkable problem. And I can tell you that there are enterprise companies who would never implement AI if it wasn't secure and private.
Yeah.
And the reality is it can be, but it also can't be. And you better understand what you're doing when you're rolling it out, and looking at your end user license agreement is probably the most important aspect of doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Anything you would add to that?
I think you summed it up pretty well. It's two things, right? First thing, make sure that whatever LLM you're using, it's not like storing your information to train their models, because like ChatGPT paid versus free version, it's a big difference. That's why we always lean towards the paid version. And what I generally try to encourage people to do is, even if your end license agreement says that okay, this information will not be used to train their data, I would still just go the extra mile and just depersonalize whatever information you're giving it, right? And just remove the personally identifiable data of your clients. So, I mean, while yes, these companies are saying that they will not store their data to train the models, but we've seen in the past that these big tech giants have lied to us before, so it can happen again. So I would just go the extra
Or
mile,
or they change their
depersonalize whatever.
policy, right? They
Or they
change
change
their
their
policy.
policy. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just remove the personally identifiable information. And yeah, and as Andrew said, making sure that you're aware of what's happening with your terms and service agreement, because that's also really important.
Yeah. Other than that, I think this has been a great session. I hope you guys found it
Yeah.
helpful. What do we have on the agenda for our next webinar? I think it's RSP.
So,
This is tax season. Not
mm,
RSP.
so,
T1
uh,
updates.
yeah, exactly. So the next webinar is going to be hosted by our lovely colleague, Rachel, which you've seen before in past webinars, and she's going to be explaining everything that's new in the upcoming, all the updates for the upcoming personal tax season. So make sure you're stay tuned for that. You can go to our websites on our events page and sign up for the webinar there, and you'll get all the details that you need to join our next sessions. So yeah.
Awesome. I hope you guys found this useful, and we'll see you at the next one.